Sol. I am Skadi and welcome to the Norse Code. Today we are going to talk about the goddess who first visited me and showed me how real this really can be, the goddess of winter, Skadi. Quick disclaimer, if the sound is a little bit different, I'm trying out a new microphone. Hope it works. Let me know. So, Skadi. Skadi is the goddess of winter, archery, hunting, skiing, vengeance. She's the first goddess that kind of caught my attention. First of all the gods and goddesses to catch my attention when I first got into all this. And really kind of helped me go down this path. She is the daughter of Thiazi, who we talked about in the last mythology episode about Loki. She is the wife of Njord, the god of the sea, the stepmother of Freyr and Freya. She resides in Thrymheim, which is Thiazi's old home, and it's up in the mountains of Jotunheim. She is known as the mother of wolves, the shining bride of the gods, and that's it. I thought there was a third thing. I can't remember. Anyway, in case you want to know just how interested in Skadi I am, I have Skadi tattooed on my leg. I will throw a picture up there now so you can see it. I also have Skadi, 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 Skadi. For those of you listening to this as the podcast instead of on YouTube, I just pointed to 4 Skadi statues that I have on my altar here. So, to tell the story of how Skadi became a goddess, first we're going to recap the kidnapping of Idun that we covered in the last episode about Loki. So, Odin, Loki, and Honir were on a journey through Jotunheim. They were tricked by a Jotun, Thiazi, in the form of an eagle to give him meat. Loki didn't like how this was done, so he swung a branch at the eagle and ended up being kidnapped by Thiazi. And Thiazi made Loki swear an oath that he would kidnap Idun. And the Norse took oaths very seriously, so if you swore an oath, you had to follow through. So, of course, Loki followed through, and then was made to rescue Idun by the gods. They were all feeling the effects of age, since Idun makes the what is essentially like an ambrosia from Greek and Roman mythology that kept the gods young. And in Loki's rescuing of Idun, Thiazi gave chase, and the gods killed Thiazi. So naturally, Thiazi's daughter, was furious. She came home, found that he was gone, found that there was a scuffle, followed it, and went to Asgard looking for vengeance in full armor, all weapons ready to go. Now this is a fierce Jotun who is very pissed, who probably doesn't know that Thiazi kind of had it coming. And so she goes after the gods. And the gods, who were a little fearful due to her ferociousness, tried to bargain with Skadi. So she accepted. She said that she would let it all go if the gods can do 2 things for her. 1, make her laugh. Now this is a Jotun we're talking about. Jotuns are not known for their sense of humor. So to make one laugh is a pretty big feat. The second is that she wanted one of the gods as her husband. Specifically, she wanted Balder. So the gods agreed with some stipulations. To start with, making her laugh. That, not so much with the stipulations. Many of the gods tried to amuse Skadi with tales, jokes, actions. But it wasn't until Loki intervened that she finally broke. And what did I say in the last episode about Loki? He causes trouble and then comes to the rescue. This is him coming to the rescue yet again in this story. So to make Skadi laugh, to break her stoic face, Loki did one of the weirdest things I've ever read about. He tied a rope to the beard of a goat, took the other end of the rope and tied it to his testicles. He's fully naked, ties them to his testicles, ties the other end to a goat, and they have a game of tug and war. That sounds awful. I don't think I'd ever do that. In fact, I can say certainly that I would never, ever do that. So they play tug of war. Eventually, Loki wins, pulls the beard off the goat, and in the process falls into Skadi's lap. And Skadi chuckles. Which, let's face it, who wouldn't? So, that's item 1 off the list. She laughed. Wasn't much of a laugh, but it still counts. Now, on to the second thing, the husband. Odin agreed that she may take a god as her husband, but she can't have Balder. At least not outright. Excuse me. Instead, what was agreed upon was that she would pick one of the gods. However, she could only see his feet. So they would take all the gods, they'd put up a barrier, they would take off their shoes and their leggings and stick their feet out. And Skadi had to decide based on the feet alone who would be her husband. So she chose the most beautiful feet, thinking that it would be Balder. It wasn't. It was Njord, god of the wind and the sea. Which, if you think about it, he probably would have pretty nice feet. He was often down in the surf, in the water, and have you ever seen a beach bum who didn't have nice feet? So that's how Skadi became the shining bride of the gods. So as the wife of Njord, their marriage lasted a very, very long 2 weeks. Yep, that's right, 2 weeks. You see, Njord wanted Skadi to live with him, which seems reasonable, right? His home was down by the sea. Being the god of wind and sea, again, makes sense. She hated living there. You got to keep in mind, this is a Jotun who spent her entire life in the cold mountains of Jotunheim. So now she's down at a sunny, I want to say sea shanty. I really don't know if it was a shanty, but it's Njord's home there on the sea. She hated it. It was too warm, it was too sunny, and she hated the sound of the seagulls. So she lived with it for about a week, and Njord could see that she was really not happy. She made it very clear that she was not happy. So he agreed, well, okay, we tried living here, it didn't work. How about we go live in Thrymheim, in the mountains? So they pack up and move to Thrymheim. Njord lasted a week. He hated how cold it was. He hated the snow. He hated how cloudy it was. And he could not sleep due to the howling of the wolves. So, after a week, Njord went back to his home, and he and Skadi got divorced. That's it. 2 weeks. And their marriage was over. Now, this was still enough that she got to maintain her position as now a god, well, as a goddess. There are a couple stories that Skadi ended up marrying Odin and bearing him children. Those children are not named. If I remember correctly, there's only one source that has that story in it. But frankly, it doesn't really make sense because Odin was already married to Frigga and or Freya. little tangent. Some think Frigga and Freya were the same goddess. Others think they were two separate goddesses. I happen to be in the camp that they were the same. That's a much deeper discussion we'll do when we cover Freya. But no, Odin was already married. We're not talking Zeus where they had multiple wives and went from marriage to marriage and all this. This is Odin. And he would not have married somebody else without first divorcing, and there's no stories of him divorcing. So I have a hard time believing that Skadi and Odin got married. What makes more sense, and again, there's only one or two references of this in the sources, is that Skadi eventually married Ullr. Which makes sense to me. See, Ullr is the god of winter, the god of archery, the god of hunting. So for him and Skadi to get together makes sense. Don't you think? They got the same interests. They're basically the same things. They want to live in the same place. So that's kind of where my money's at. I mean, none of us really know for sure. So many sources are lost to history. So we have no idea what actually happened in the stories or in actuality. But and we will cover Ullr more in January, being that this is the month in which we have Yule, the festival of the solstice, figured the goddess of winter, and next month being the first full month of winter, the god of winter. So we'll talk more about Ullr and his marriage to Skadi next month. Can't just drop everything right here, can I? So yeah, that's where I think happened with Skadi. She eventually married Ullr. But regardless, the fact that she married Njord at all made her a goddess. Now, she's often said to be Aesir. When you see a list of Aesir, she's always in that list. She's never listed with the Vanir. However, it's not said outright in any of the sources that she is Aesir. So, personally, I think Skadi should be considered Vanir. And I think I have a good argument as to why. See, she married Njord, who was Vanir. Just because Njord, Freya, and Freyr lived in Asgard with the rest of the Aesir did not make them Aesir. They were still Vanir. There are other goddesses, such as Sigyn, the wife of Loki, who is considered to be Aesir because they married an Aesir. So wouldn't Skadi be considered Vanir because she married a Vanir? I mean, that makes sense, don't you think? And then if she did indeed marry Ullr, who I also think could be Vanir, that just adds to, her being considered Vanir. I will discuss why I think Ullr is Vanir next month when we cover Ullr. Now, if she did in fact marry Odin, which I really don't think is likely, then considering her Aesir makes sense, but I don't think that happened. Now, there's a difference between the Aesir and the Vanir in terms of kind of what they represent. The Aesir very much are human traits. Poetry, wisdom, war. That's the Aesir, whereas the Vanir are more nature deities. I mean, Njord is wind and sea. Freyr is fertility and harvest. Freya is love and war. But I mean, love is pretty universal amongst all species. So I think that Skadi should be considered Vanir because she is more akin to a nature goddess. She is very much at home in the mountains. She's considered the mother of wolves because of her affinity for wolves. She's very often depicted with a wolf with her. And she is the goddess of archery and hunting. And what is more natural and deep within the roots of nature than archery and hunting? If you look at gods and goddesses across the world who are associated with archery and hunting, they're always a nature god, a nature goddess. So why would this be any different? So between having married Njord and her having more attributes that are akin to the Vanir, I think she should be considered Vanir. And until somebody convinces me otherwise, I will continue to refer to Skadi as a Vanir. Now, if you disagree with me, please leave a comment, send me a message, put a comment on Facebook or YouTube, send me a message on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, and let's discuss it. No name calling, no telling me I'm an idiot or anything like that. If you're going to be confrontational, I'm not going to talk to you. But if you want to have a discussion about it, I'm very open to that. So please reach out if you disagree with me. Now, let's talk about Skadi worship. Skadi was a very, very important deity for the Scandinavians. There's not a lot of archaeological evidence to support Skadi worship. However, there are other reasons that we know that she was very, very important. Number one in that is that the name Scandinavia is rooted in the name Skadi. It very loosely translates to Skadi's Isle, or Skadi's Island. So the whole area in which the Vikings existed is named after Skadi. If that doesn't show her importance, nothing does. There's also many places throughout Viking Scandinavia that refer to Skadi in their name. Skani, which is the areas of southern, it's an area of southern Sweden. Skani gets its name directly from Skadi, and I have a book, or had a book, because I can't find it, that actually listed different places, Norse settlements that had names that were rooted in the name Skadi. Like I said, I can't find that book, and I've been unable to find much information on that. Most sources that I looked for when Googling this talked about Scandinavia, said that there were others, left it at that. So unfortunately, I do too, because I can't get any more information. When I do find that book or get more information, I will certainly update you guys on the different towns and villages and sections of Scandinavia that are also named after Skadi. But all of that aside, the whole region is named after Skadi, Skadi's Island. Now, in modern times, Skadi is still worshipped. She can be kind of tough to get her to work with you. You really need to be a strong person. I mean, not necessarily physically strong, but strong in character, strong in determination. She's not going to work with you if you're wishy-washy. You really need to be moving headstrong to get there. She's easiest to work with this time of year. Winter's coming up. It was snowing earlier today. It's getting cold. This is a great time to try to connect with Skadi. She also very much likes salted caramel vodka. If you're going to leave her an offering, I've left her many offerings, and the salted caramel vodka, for whatever reason, seems to be most well received. Now, how can you go about worshiping Skadi, honoring Skadi? Honestly, the best thing you can do, spend time in the woods, the mountains, the snow. Go skiing. She's the goddess of skiing, guys. Go skiing. Now, granted, I've never gone skiing, but I kind of want to. go for a hike in the mountains. Good weather or bad, you could do this in the summer too, but go in the woods, go in the mountains, be out in nature. If you enjoy being out in the cold or can tolerate being out in the cold, going hiking on a mountain in snow, and I'm not talking really deep snow, but just like a couple inches, just enough that it's really pretty and you can still get out there and hike safely. It's inspiring, to say the least. I love hiking, period, but I especially love doing it in the snow. Another thing you can do is help protect wolves. Wolves are an endangered species. She is the mother of wolves. So if you have any programs near you that are helping to protect wolves, then please give to them, donate your time, do something to help protect the wolf. That goes a long way to gaining favor with Skadi. In fact, there's a place in New Jersey, which is closest to me, that is actually almost like a wolf rescue. They take in wolves that have either been hurt or injured or wander into the tri-state area, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Because we do get them from time to time wander down from Canada, very rarely, but it does happen. They'll take them in if we can't get them back home, and they have a big zoo and whatnot. And I will leave links to their organization down in the comments or in the description. Now, I can't talk about Skadi without telling you about my own personal experiences with her. So I mentioned early on in this episode that she was the first goddess to kind of help me down this path. It was, 3 years ago now. It was November, just before Thanksgiving, and we got a big snowfall, about a foot of snow. First snowfall of the year. At the time, I hated the cold, I hated the winter, and I was not excited to go out there and shovel. I was not ready to be cold yet, so I go outside, and I wrote Skadi in the snow, in runes, with my finger, said a prayer to her, and my hope, my intention in all this was just that I wouldn't be cold. That's what I was hoping for, that she'd be happy with that and just grant me some warmth while I was shoveling the driveway. I go and I shovel my whole long driveway. I get all the way to the bottom, and I'm leaning on my shovel looking up at the house, and somebody walked up behind me, came up over on my right side, put their arm over my left shoulder. I can feel the weight of the arm. I know there's somebody standing right there, but there's nobody right there. And it's just in my mind's eye that I can see her. In fact, the tattoo that I showed you earlier on my leg is basically what she looked like to me. And I was just awestruck that I was visited by Skadi. I knew who it was. You know instantly. If one of the gods visit you, you know. And there she was visiting me. I should have taken the opportunity to try to speak with her, try to ask some questions, but I was just too awestruck that this was even happening. I'm just standing there like, oh my God, is this really happening? And then after 15, 20 seconds of this, just kind of faded away. And this was very early on in my path, and I'm just like, okay, that's all I needed to dive head first and keep on barreling through. I've had a few other experiences with her. Right here in this room, there's been a few times where I've given offerings of salted caramel vodka, said some prayers to her, some invocations, and felt her presence. Always behind me, always seemed to be behind me. Just like a really, really cold presence. Not like cold in like as in mean or unhappy or anything. Just cold as in the temperature. And it was a very overpowering and cold presence right behind me. I recognized it. I knew who it was. She didn't touch me. She didn't form in any way that I can see anything, but it was certainly there. And that happened 2-3 times. And there's been a few times where I've gotten to speak with her through meditation. Highly recommend that, whether you're into paganism or not, meditation is very, very good for you. I highly recommend you do it. But yeah, that's the majority of my interactions with Skadi. She is very near and dear to me, or else I wouldn't have her tattooed on my leg, and I wouldn't have, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4 statues of her up here. Oh, and one last thing. Up here on the screen is Isa, the rune. That is the rune that's most often associated with Skadi. Isa is the rune for ice. So I'm sure you could figure out why that's associated with Skadi, the goddess of winter. So that's what we got on Skadi. The next episode we'll actually do a more pagan related one on Yule, because we have Christmas coming up, or Yule, or whatever other holiday you celebrate this time of year. It is the winter solstice, so pretty much every religion has a holiday this time of year. Come January, we will do Uller. And then in February, if you keep an eye out on our Facebook page, you'll see advertisement for a class that I'm teaching at Nature's Touch down in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And that'll be we're going to start a series of classes there on the Norse gods. And we're going to start with Skadi and Uller. So if you are anywhere near Gettysburg and you want to have, a class in person and kind of check out Nature's Touch, which is an awesome shop, keep an eye out. We'll be advertising that, and hopefully you can make it out there. Also planning on having the owner of Nature's Touch on here. I'm hoping for February, might end up being March. We'll see what happens. But yeah, she's really cool. Has a great shop. So we'll have her on and chat with her, and yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. So thank you for listening, and as always, give us a like, give us a subscribe, check us out on YouTube or Facebook at the Norse Code Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at Skegi, which I have to admit, I have not been good about updating these last couple months. Just been busy. You know how life goes. So yes, do your social media ritual and get all that done. If you have anything that you'd like to see me cover, leave a comment. If you want to argue with me, if you want to discuss with me civilly whether Skadi should be Aesir or Vanir, leave a comment, shoot me a message. Let's see what you have to say. Who knows? You might change my mind. I might change yours, or we might just have an interesting discussion and walk away unchanged. Either way, it'll be fun to get to know somebody. So, thank you again for listening, and hope you have a very good night. Goodbye.